podcast fam? Today we have the honor of talking with Rick Staab, co-founder and CEO of the InterMed Group, a national provider of healthcare technology management services powered by innovation and expansive industry experience based in Alachua, Florida. In 2006, Rick and his wife Michelle started a nonprofit and the official charity of the InterMed Group, Tyler's Hope for a Dystonia Cure, shortly after their son Tyler was diagnosed with dystonia. In today's episode, we hear all about these incredible organizations. Enjoy. You are listening to WHOA Podcast, coming to you from Gainesville, Florida. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the WHOA GNV Podcast, the podcast bringing you businesses and individuals that make you go, whoa! I am your host, Collin Austin, and my co-host, Michael Dees. You guys, I'm sorry to tell you this, but he will not be with us moving forward with the WHOA GNV podcast. So let me take a second to explain everything. You guys, Mike has been with our organization, New Scooters for Less, for years. I've known the guy since 2004. And last year, I know we talked about it on the podcast a little bit, but Mike moved to Jacksonville, and because he's loyal to a fault, he drove back and forth every single day to help me with the chaos of COVID-19 and its impact on New Scooters for Less. So that time has come. That time has come for him to make that transition more permanent, and he has officially moved to Jacksonville. I'll go ahead and dispel any rumors. Mike was not fired, and he didn't quit either. This was very mutual, and the timing felt right for him and for New Scooters for Less, you guys. And he will definitely be back at some point to give you guys a final goodbye. But I just wanted to give you guys a little heads up and let you know that he won't be moving forward with us. And I don't know what that means for the show. I might do it solo. I might look for another co-host. I really have no idea. It kind of depends on what you guys want, what the audience wants. So don't be afraid to email me and let me know. But Mike, we love you, and I'll miss you, brother. Thank you so much for everything that you've done for this show, and of course for New Scooters for Less, and the impact that you've had on all of the organizations that we've been a part of over these 17 years. It's been crazy. But I just really appreciate you, man. So thank you so much. And you guys definitely find Mike on Instagram, give him some love, drop him a little note and tell him thank you. And, hopefully I can carry the load well enough. I'll give it my best go. So I'm excited to get into today's show, but before we do, let's thank some sponsors. You guys, I just had my first in-person speaking event in well over a year, and I got to speak to the wonderful team at The Best Restoration. Our friend Jorge invited me to come and speak about the UCE, the ultimate customer experience, and it was a blast. I'm so honored to have The Best Restoration as a sponsor of our show. You know you need to have friends on your side when those disasters happen. When that toilet overflows, the washing machine leaks, or when the pipe bursts in the wall, or if you're like us and you move into a business and the place is full of mold, call our friends at The Best Restoration. They can do it all. I can speak firsthand to the quality of their work, and with their certified techs and state-of-the-art equipment, these guys are the masters of disaster. Give them a call at 352-353-0768 or visit them at thebestrestoration.com. And also, I want to give special thanks to the GNV commercial advisors at Colliers Gainesville. Gainesville is growing every day, and no one knows that better than the GNV commercial advisory team at Colliers Gainesville. They help businesses and investors of all sizes buy, sell, lease, and manage their properties in North Central Florida. The GNV commercial advisory team has the most local experience and expertise in town. Plus, they have the resources of a global firm to get your commercial real estate deal done. I'm doing a call for offers on a property that ends today, April 5th at 5 p.m. That's right, even I am testing the market, and the GNV commercial advisory team has been there every step of the way. Are you ready to get started on your next commercial project? See what these guys can do for you at colliers.com/Gainesville. Thank you again to all of the sponsors that make this show possible. Now let's get into the show. Today on the show, we have Rick Staab, co-founder and chief executive officer of the InterMed Group and president of Tyler's Hope for a Dystonia Cure. Rick, my friend, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks, Collin. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to it.
I'm super excited that we finally got you in here. We're at episode 145, and you're here, man. So thanks for coming.
That's awesome. Well, I do want to say, like, I'm sorry I didn't meet Mike, but he sounds like a great guy to have alongside of you this whole time. So
thanks, man. He is. He's a hell of a guy, and Jacksonville is okay. It's no Gainesville in my opinion, but it's okay. And so he'll be back plenty of times. It's not that far away. It's far if you got to do that drive every day though, back and forth, hour and a half each way. Ugh. But he'll be back. He's a loyal Gator. And so he'll be here for all those games. So it'll be all good. You'll get to meet him at some point. But thank you.
Good. Also, your sponsors, Jorge. I've known him for a while, and he's supported Towers Hope Foundation for many years. So
excellent.
Glad to hear that.
Dude,
on the show.
He's so supportive of so many things in this community. That guy's just got a heart of gold, Yep. So awesome, man. Well, I love to dive into the history. Like that's what's so great about the show. Is like I really want to hear your story. It's funny. I say this all the time. It's like I know so many people here in Gainesville, but then I start they come in here, and we start diving into their story, and I'm like, man, I didn't know anything about you. So take us back, man. I want to hear how you became the CEO of the InterMed group and how you got to Gainesville and everything.
Sure, I appreciate that, and I'm envious of your position of being able to do this. I know you enjoy it a lot, but being able to really get to know that part of people when you go through this is amazing to me, because I know a lot of people in town and all over, but getting to know them at that level is different. So I'm in Gainesville because when I went away to college, my father and my parents moved to Gainesville, and my father was the chairman of the radiology department at UF Health at the time, Chance. And so when I came back, I was supposed to go into a pharmaceutical sales job that fell through before it ever started. And so I stayed in Gainesville. I was stopping off in Gainesville on the way down to Pompano Beach. When that happened, I started working for a local company that does what I do. And they brought me on to work on equipment. I went down to a hospital in Ocala called Monroe Regional Medical Center. I went back to Santa Fe to get an electronics degree, and just really started down this path. But all along, I think, even though I didn't realize it at that time, I was an entrepreneur, so I wanted to own my own thing, invest, but I always thought I could do things a little better, a little differently than what I was exposed to. And so a couple years after, it was funny. I worked for a gentleman and a company called Technical Shared Services, and the guy that owned that, Francisco Callejas Dijon, was a Nicaraguan guy, and he was getting a lot of his properties back and things like that, so he was spending his time there. And at a very young age, he put me in charge of his company while he was gone. And so I learned a lot of things, both good and bad along that way, and thought I need to go on my own and start this. I think I could do it better and start fresh, and was looking for capital, got some people to invest in doing this. Actually tried to buy the company that I was working for. And
how old were you when you were working with him, and he had kind of...
early 20s, 21, 22.
Okay.
So I got nervous in the process of borrowing a bunch of money to try to acquire the company. I'd never done anything or even fathomed doing anything like that. But my oldest brother, Ken, was kind of helping me. He came from finance and the banking world and all this. So in the process of doing that, I got uncomfortable and went, instead of borrowing that money, I backed out of that agreement and started my own company called ProTech at the time. And months later, I had worked with another gentleman who became my partner, David Bowerly, who had a local x-ray company here, and we decided to partner up and what became the InterMed group, offer all the different services to hospitals and different things. And then, it grew over the years. We became 5 different companies with different modalities, focusing on different parts of hospital services. And then in 2016, we brought them all back together again as the InterMed group. So before they were InterMed Nuclear Medicine, InterMed Biomedical, InterMed X-ray, InterMed PACS, and InterMed Ultrasound, where they focused on those particular things.
Was there a particular reason you set it up that way?
Just taking care of different, employees, getting into different areas and separating out those responsibilities. You had to focus on certain modalities that were specialized back then, and now we've wrapped them together because we have more resources, bigger number of people to add as support and technical support and things like that.
Cool. That's it in a nutshell?
Yeah, that's it in a nutshell. I made it sound simpler than it was.
I'm sure. I mean, when somebody comes up to you and says, what do you do? How do you explain it to them?
Well, I always answer, I'm a dancer, but I don't make any money at dancing. So, just because, break the ice, whatever. But we provide medical equipment services. So healthcare technology management is what we do. And we've grown from in the Southeast, mainly the East Coast, to nationwide, and innovated some new ways to service healthcare.
Okay. Yeah. And what about the business just put you on fire? Was it something specific that you guys were working on, or was it just that you kind of fell into working with this other gentleman, and then you liked the business, Well, were you always in the medical?
I was always field? In medical, even before I realized that was something I really liked to do.
Yeah.
And, whether it's divine intervention or whatever else, things just kind of
fell into place
and worked together. I like healthcare and a focus on health, and I also like technology because it's always changing and it creates challenges. So I like to be challenged all the time and get into new things, learn new things, and I got with a great group of people that helped me move in that direction.
It's got to be incredibly challenging, right? I mean, given a 2021 world where it seems like technology changes constantly.
So in healthcare, technology changes all the time, and it's things that treat or take care of lives, your mother, your daughter, your sister, whoever, and so it's impactful. You can see the benefits of what you do, especially if you do it better than everybody else, which is what our goal is, to be the best in the industry and kind of set the bar. Healthcare always changes. Everything changes right now. You got to expect change. Technology's developing at such a rapid rate that tomorrow looks different than today. So you have to be able to embrace change and kind of look forward to it in a way, to stay in front of things. And so I always felt that way. I'm always, whether it's ADD or whatever else, I always wanted new challenges and to try new things and learn new things. And so this was a way where I could have an impact but not be stagnant in the approach to new things.
Okay. I also know that you've owned other businesses, right? You had a wine bar in downtown Gainesville at one point, hotels in South Carolina at one point. I mean,
yeah. Still have those, but
yeah. Okay, so I'm really interested in that. Like, at what point did this journey turn into more of a serial entrepreneurial journey, and you got involved in all these other things? Was it much later on?
No, I think it was. I started to discover that that's what I really wanted to do, and that I had an entrepreneurship spirit when I worked for that group, Technical Shared Services, because I was doing all kinds of other things too, not just in the core business that I was working in. I tried to do different things to have an impact and make money. And when we started InterMed, and everything's always a challenge, like you could be more successful and more, affect different things. So whenever something else presented itself that I thought I could learn and do well, I jumped in, especially if people weren't sure that I could do it. That's a driving factor,
It is. That's a huge factor, man.
Yeah.
I mean, like, that's one of the things Mike always said to me. It was like, or to other people, is when somebody said, oh, you can't do that. And he would always be like, don't tell Collin he can't do it, because he'll simply want to do it just to prove you wrong.
Right. Now I look for those things.
Yeah.
Right. Like we have to run a Ultra Ragnar, which is 200 miles with 6 friends or 5 friends, 6 of us. Done like anything that I want to create a bigger challenge so that you can have a bigger impact, and then always look to do things a little differently, but only differently if it's more efficient or more effective. So I know a lot of people say the same things, but really, like, I just love to be tested or challenged in that way, because I don't think there's anything that we can't do or accomplish that we can think of if we have the right mindset and drive towards doing that.
Do you get burnt out easily, though?
No.
I mean, with all these different things, different projects, like, how do you stay on top of it all? I think that's my biggest thing is, like, I feel like I'm very similar. Like, I love to be involved in a lot of different things, and I don't know, maybe, like, I have a hard time saying no to a lot of things. So people ask, hey, can you do this? Can you do that? Like, even this week, I mean, I'm only on Tuesday, and I've been asked to, like, help with, 3 different events and, and different things. I'm like, man, like, I really want to say yes, but I don't want to, I don't want to overcommit. I don't want to burn out. I guess those are some of the things that come to my mind.
I don't feel like I get burned out. I get more frustrated with not being able to do more.
Okay.
And there's never enough time, never enough things. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't drop things. I have a wonderful assistant in Mercedes.
She's awesome.
That's what you're talking about. Yeah, of course. But she helps keep me in line to make sure that I'm not dropping things. So I don't have a problem saying no. But if it's something that has less impact, but there's always opportunities out there, and if I didn't have something, if I wasn't juggling a bunch of things and trying to do more, then I'm not sure I'd be as happy.
Yeah.
Right.
It's funny that you say that, because I recently made a post on social media post or something, and I said something along the lines of, as an idea generating visionary entrepreneur, the hardest part about my life is not knowing which idea to pursue. Because there's, like, so many, and it's like, man, like, and I'm definitely one of these people that I can't do everything. Like, I gotta, like, tune it in to at least a couple of things, right?
What's important is, to me, is and I've had to learn this, my companies have gone from, tiny 1 or 2 man shops to 200 plus people to, all kinds of different sizes.
Is that how big InterMed is?
InterMed right now is 200 employees. Okay. And about $50 million in revenue.
Okay.
With potential by the end of 2021 to be at $80 to $100 million in revenue and 300 employees.
Wow.
So we have a lot going on now. It's a great opportunity, and we're not driven by bigger, more employees. But we have to be bigger to have a bigger impact. So really what we want to do, and don't tell our investors, right, is take healthcare and create, through efficiencies and cost savings, more accessibility for the patients, right? And we lose sight of that nationally, and I'm sure I'm going to be displaced at some point because I'm very active at the federal level and everything else too. With we have protected big business, and there's nothing wrong with profits or anything that you can do things, but especially in healthcare, and COVID, shined a big light on that. Is we put the emphasis on the companies and protecting them and their profits and things like that, when if we took a step back and we made the patient the sun and everything rotated around patient care and patients, then we would do things differently. It wouldn't be a question. And so that's kind of the approach that we take with InterMed. Those other things will come, and we can't have the impact without getting bigger. But that's our ultimate goal. That and curing dystonia. So Tyler's Hope is part of all our people. But what I was originally starting out to say with that is, it's real important, and what I've had to learn over this time is to surround yourself with really good people. So you can have great ideas, you can't implement them all. You have to get people that are better than you at helping put those things in place, and deciding which ones are worthy or more worthy of pursuing. Right?
Yeah, I need a lot of integrators in my life.
Well,
if you are an integrator out there, come join me. I got lots of great ideas. I can just be like, here, run with it. Just keep handing them out, man.
So I get involved in all aspects. I love, and that's part of our recruitment and our culture at InterMed is giving back to the local communities and being involved in the local communities. When you are, it's like data input. You know more, kind of like interviewing or talking with people, and you find out different things. You get a deeper bond, a different relationship, and you could be more effective. So whether it was the chamber or different companies or whatever else, we get involved with the local communities. And the way that I think I've evolved, I'd like to think, for the better is being more broad, or seeing from a 10,000 foot view how things are supposed to be or go in the future to create better things, and being more analytic, capture all the data and the information to make better decisions, versus the details of the daily operations and the things that I used to really focus on. All very important, but in my successful businesses, I have really good people that are better at that.
How long did it take you to kind of get to that point?
Still evolving.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but so far it's taken about 25 years.
Okay.
I think make progress in those years a little bit, step at a time. But at times I still get drawn back into that, because I don't want to think that, just because you're the CEO or founder or something of whatever it is, you're not willing to do some of the same things that you're asking others to do.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. That'll probably be a question that I ask a lot of people over the next couple of years, because I feel like, and I've talked about on the show, I always kind of get pulled back into the scooter dealership, right? I've been trying to evolve into other areas, and it's like, oh, well, come right back in. Hey, there's a pandemic over here. Come right back and help with that, So it's, I don't know, man. Hopefully,
you gotta do what you have to do sometimes. That's we called it sexual energy. You gotta do whatever it takes. Pardon me.
Okay.
And sometimes you do that, but am much more so into planning and strategy to help other people help execute. Like I love now, it's all about relationships and building those through helping everybody elevate.
Okay. Which makes sense. What does your day look like? You know, like what is Rick Staab's routine?
It changes often.
Okay.
But I try to have a set schedule that changes every day. But depending on what it is and what's most important, I'll go from anywhere from I've been doing and learning a lot of M&A, mergers and acquisition work. And so I do some of that as the CEO of InterMed. And interaction with the leadership team from an operations or a human resources standpoint, but more of a cheerleader to the leadership team. Not a cheerleader because but we work as a group of people that hopefully are rowing in the same direction and getting others that are direct reports to us to evolve and get better. They're in probably an hour or a minute that goes by, or when I think I can go to sleep and not put some research into neurological disorders and dystonia and trying to find a cure for, quite selfishly, my kids, but 500,000 other people in the U.S. And I know we can do it. Like, this is probably easier than any other things, even though it's a huge challenge. That's what, that's also one of the things that drives me, besides the fact that it's my family and my kids.
Sure. I can't imagine a more motivating challenge.
Well,
right? So, why don't you kind of tell our audience a little bit about your son and Tyler's Hope and, kind of the work that you guys are doing there?
Well, so one thing you asked about before that I think is real important is these things just kind of come together.
Yeah.
So this challenge is also, the people within our company, within our organization are behind that. We wear it on our sleeves, on all our emails, have it in our signature. It's awareness, raising funds, doing the research. 97% of every dollar we raise goes directly to research to find a cure for dystonia.
So would you say that's the bigger mission of your organizations, or?
That is congruent with a mission so we want to make healthcare more accessible for patients, which would also be dystonia patients or whoever else. And we see the challenges, see how much better we can make healthcare if we do our job well and grow nationally. It's probably, honestly, more, I'm more in tune with the finding a cure for dystonia, but the employees all are very supportive of that. They volunteer time. They know about dystonia. It's part of their orientation, part of their recruitment. Like I said, everything we do, because we're dealing with healthcare providers. So it's on our contracts. We can create that awareness in the industry that is going to have the biggest impact on this, or the research. So I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, there's a lot of purpose
more of
there.
Mine. Yeah, there's a lot of why.
Yeah, for sure.
Simon Simek gave me his coin when he came here. But it really is part of the culture of InterMed, and it helps us. I think it helps us a lot.
Yeah. For our, some of our audience who might not know what dystonia is, can you explain it really quick?
So the easiest way to explain dystonia, and it's a movement disorder, like Parkinson's or essential tremor, things like that. But if I go to pick up this beer, for instance, you have to have a contracting and a relaxing muscle in order to make that happen. And the signals get mixed up in their brain at some point where they may both contract at the same time. So it can be very debilitating and painful at times. And but it's not degenerative like most other diseases. It is, they call it a disorder because nothing's dying. They just have mixed up signals. So in the case of my son, hence the name Tyler's Hope, Tyler played sports, was active, and when he was 7, he started losing the ability to control his muscles. So, very smart kid, very motivated, got a great sense of humor, but it's like caging somebody up in this process because it's hard for him to talk, just because controlling your jaw muscles, hard to walk, do the normal things of every day. He was the youngest boy in America, youngest kid in America to ever have what they call deep brain stimulation, DBS surgery. That's widely used now and is very effective, and it gave him a lot of his abilities back, so his right side of his body. So now he has the independence of being able to drive, do a lot of things that he couldn't do before that were taken away from him.
How old is he now?
23.
Okay.
If I get that wrong, you have to edit it.
Sorry, Dad. Sorry to put you on the spot there.
No. Then my daughter Samantha was also diagnosed a few years later with dystonia, and was very twisted up. It was hard for her and painful even to be in a wheelchair or sit on the couch because she was very twisted. She also had DBS at a young age and got even more benefit from it for her quality of life. She ended up playing libero for her high school volleyball team, and she has straight A's and is in the nursing program at the University of Alabama. So she's excelled and does well, and probably will end up impacting dystonia even more with her nursing, or maybe go to med school or something. I know she's very interested in that research and talks about it, and she's very good at it. So we'll see.
When I kind of want to throw it back to when Tyler was 7. I mean, when you first realized that this was happening, I mean, I'm trying to put myself in your shoes as a parent, because my kids right now are 7 and 11. Hopefully I get my kids' ages right. They're 7 and 11, so I mean, what was your first, instinct interaction? Like, did you just kind of approach it as like, okay, this is just a challenge that we're gonna have to deal with, or do you even remember?
No, at first, yeah, I remember it like it was yesterday. I can see actually in my mind the day I knew there was an issue, but we didn't really know what it was. And my father was there. He's a doctor. He was a doctor. And I've been around medicine and thought I knew stuff. I'd never heard of dystonia before, right? And he was shooting hoops on a little indoor basketball hoop, and his right elbow would, when he'd go to shoot, would kind of shake, and he'd have to keep it out like a big chicken wing or something. And I would tell him, try to keep your elbow in. That's going to make your shot better, or whatever else. And he couldn't do it. And we knew that there was something wrong. And my father said, yeah, we'll get him seen by a neurologist. And at the time, it was a pediatric neurologist. And we went everywhere, all over the country, to the best pediatric neurologists, to finally, pretty quickly, he rapidly deteriorated. His symptoms got much worse pretty quickly. We didn't know if he was going to die or what was going to happen. And
how quickly was it?
So he came back in. We're 5 miles from Shands, University of Florida, and Dr. Oken, who's an adult neurologist, was coming by on a consult, stepped in, and basically within 5 minutes said, I know what this is. We'll do a genetic test. We'll do, blood tests. But I know what this is. So, and he was right. And so in a lot of ways, we feel very blessed. We have, the duo that started the Movement Disorder Center here, Dr. Oken and Dr. Kelly Foote, are remarkable. You don't see that anywhere else in the world. A neurosurgeon and a neurologist getting along so well and doing things like that. But these are world-renowned people in their field, and that being so close to us was if there was a blessing in this, that was it, right? So we immediately said, we were up trying to figure out what the heck this was and what could we do about it and what is the basically prognosis. And so that's why I said there's, if you could stay awake all night, there's plenty of stuff you could do to have an impact. I'd hate to leave this planet one day and not have done enough,
Yeah.
So Michelle, his mom, and I just thought, and actually the encouragement of family and friends and everybody that made it happen, we just started to start the foundation. We knew we could raise some money. We thought we'd have a golf tournament. Golf tournament turned out to be, extraordinarily successful as far as raising money with great friends and family around, those relationships and things we'd built up. And so that's how it started. We knew, I've told people this, and you probably understand it more than others, but we didn't feel like we had a choice. It's, you either, what are you going to do? Sit in the corner and feel sorry for yourself or your kid or whatever, but how's that going to help them or anyone else? And we thought, we have to do something, and this is what we can do. And then it's somewhat the challenge, like people don't think we're going to do this and do it as well as we are. So now we're going to go out and prove to them we can find a cure for this and move on to the next thing, knock down the first domino.
Yeah.
And so that's still what we're doing and still what I'm hopeful for sooner rather than later. I've invited Snoop Dogg to the party in Gainesville when we find a cure. And I'll invite anybody else who wants to come because it's going to happen.
Awesome.
We just got to get there.
Yeah. I mean, if there was a timeline or a scale, like, is there any way to measure how close or no?
All I can say is we're closer. So one of the great things about it is we have a known gene and a known protein that causes all the symptoms in Tyler and Samantha, right? So all the research is very targeted, where before it was spent maybe on Parkinson's and dystonia got, whatever the secondary effects or things that could be applied to that, where we're funding direct research in dystonia, and you don't have to rebuild anything since it's not degenerative. So when we find the cure, they are cured. All you have to do is stop the symptoms, right? And the protein that causes all the symptoms is a mutation of a protein that is also that the body still produces. So it's a single gene deletion that causes a single protein mutation that the body produces both what they call the wild type, the normal protein, and the mutated protein. So it's possible you eliminate the mutated protein and your body functions normally, like being low on iron or something. There's all kinds of stuff. So we use CRISPR-Cas9 and we use protein therapies and now pharmaceuticals that look very promising. There's a very, very small percentage of the population that take dopamine and are cured. Like they don't have the symptoms anymore. So it's just another more evidence that it's out there. We just have to find it.
Is there a reason like why it happens at like later on in life, or it happened to Tyler at 7? Like why? I mean, it can happen at any age, or
it can happen at any age, and there's different forms of dystonia. So,
okay.
So my kids have the genetic DYT1 form of dystonia, which usually is early onset, like when you're a kid, but not always. Like I have a close friend that two close friends that were just diagnosed, and they're in their 30s and 50s with dystonia, and it's developing more symptoms, each month or each year. So it's very, it affects people differently. Like even Tyler and Samantha, it presents itself. The symptoms present differently from one person to the next. So,
how has that been a challenge? Because now you said Tyler's how old? 23.
23. Yeah, that's right.
Spot again.
I think that's what I said.
has that made it difficult for him to get work professionally? Like, where's he at? I mean, did he go to school? I mean,
yeah. So he's smart. It's difficult because he can't do physical things or balance required for a lot of things. A lot of times he could do some. So, he finding work is also difficult because you can't, it affects his speech, and you can't have a conversation or an interview like that. It looks worse than it is. I'm not sure that's even appropriate, right? It is, but people don't understand it, and then it's hard to explain.
Yeah.
Because he can't, readily talk. He can text you or email you, but even if it's an appointment to get your oil changed or whatever, nobody takes an email or a text. Or what if you need your car serviced on the side of the road? And these are minor things that he deals with from day to day. He gets over those. Before they were, putting on your clothes or whatever. Now he's got a lot more independence and can affect that. But there were two things on I would say both of us, with Tyler and I, goals, and one of them's still open. One is a job where he can make a living for himself and feel comfortable with that. And two was to have a girlfriend, right? And understand love. Well, he's been through that. I could check that off, right? Like, awesome thing to be able to do that a lot of us take for granted. But he doesn't, and that's good. Now we just got to find him a job, right?
So, real quick, let me ask a question about on the intake, he can comprehend everything that you're saying perfectly fine. It's only on the speech and him trying to communicate out to you.
That's right.
So
it's
you're like, hey, you want pizza tonight?
Actually, he excels in that area.
Okay.
And most do when they do that deep brain stimulation. They listen to the synapses firing in your brain, and theirs are firing more rapidly than people without dystonia. And I always equated that, like, he was very smart. He was very intelligent. He got in the IB program at Eastside, and
awesome. Just
because of the social side of things, he's pretty social, but couldn't really mix there. So he ended up going to St. Francis, mixed a little better there. Went to Santa Fe for a little while, trying to figure out what he wants to do. He's always had good grades, and he's got a great sense of humor, and he's which
that's good.
That gets me in trouble sometimes. But we were talking about transparency before, like sometimes I'm adolescent at work, but I think you got to have fun, and it lightens the mood sometimes.
Yeah, that's super interesting. It's like, I don't know. Sometimes I think we all need to do a little bit more research on a lot of these things. It's so difficult because you're like, I know, like walking down the street, you see somebody, that is under Tyler's circumstances, and there's just always that natural fear because you're just not really sure, right? Like as a person walking down the street, you're like, you just people fear the unknown, right? And so it's just, what do you do? What do you say?
Yeah, I mean that's what it is. It's the only thing I could say, and I don't mean it the way it's going to sound, but it's just ignorance, right? It's just that people don't understand it, and what they don't understand a lot of times, especially when you're younger, they make fun of, right?
For sure.
And that will drive you crazy, right? It used to drive me crazy, but life is all those experiences, so I am able to communicate and talk and understand other people that I see that I didn't understand before because of this experience with Tyler and Samantha, and they do. There was a friend of mine who had a kid that came to Luke, my youngest son's lacrosse game the other night, and he saw Tyler in the wheelchair, and he said, "Tyler, what happened to you?" You know, he didn't know, but out of the mouths of babes, you know, at least he wasn't turned away. He was facing it and asking Tyler, you know, which I thought was great, and so did Tyler, really.
How did you coach Tyler through that, you know, from a outside judgment? And you know, I got to think that's got to be really, really hard on a kid. Here I am. All I'm doing right now is putting myself in the shoes of a parent who would have to like face this. What would I tell my kid? What would I coach my kid on? Like, what were the things being said?
You know, we're in the same boat. Like what you would come into is the same thing that Michelle and I had to do. We don't know if we did it right. We don't know, you know, what the best way to approach it was, whether you're too tough or not understanding enough. There's a fine line there, and it's not. This is the truth that my kids, whether I was just blessed with their ability to do this, they did more coaching and more understanding because they were really bright in that process to help us get through it, right? I remember when Tyler, when we were trying to figure out what was going on with Tyler, he had to go through this battery of different tests and painful, like spinal taps and EMGs and whatever else, and he was ready to give up. You know, he didn't care. But what he said was, and then he never said anything after this, if I do this, then Samantha may not have to do this. And then he never said it again. Like he did every test he did without complaining, and I remember just thinking, like, I'm not going to ever, like, I don't want to ever say the word pain again, you know, or whatever. I hate certain things. I don't like them, but I still do them, and I always think of what they went through and what a big baby I'm being if I don't say give blood, you know. Like, that's a big challenge for me. It never goes well. I always give, right? Because I don't want to be selfish enough to think I couldn't do that.
So it doesn't go well for him. Every time I see a needle, I'm like on the verge of passing out. Oh man, I can totally empathize with that part of it.
I you know, Collin, I like to think that part of my entrepreneurship is I like to think this, right? But it's fearlessness. Like there's nothing, and whether it's my spiritual belief or whatever else, the bigger the challenge, the better for me. It's a driver, and I think, you know, honesty, integrity, all those things are things that help me keep that drive. But unless it's spiders, like I'm very fearful of spiders. But that's the only thing, because you can't fight back. You don't know where they are, you know. So
it's like me, like with needles. It's kind of going back to the giving blood. They knew I was, true story. At the University of Florida when I was in college, they were doing like flu shots outside of the hub. They're like, oh, like get your flu shot. All you need is your student ID. Like went up there, I'm like, I should do this. So go out there, get my. She sticks that needle in my arm. There's all sorts of students like walking by on the sidewalk, and of course, many of them were pretty young ladies. I mean, I was in college, and then I look at the girl and I'm like, I'm gonna pass out.
I'm going down.
I'm gonna pass out. Luckily, I didn't, but I came very close. I was like, I have a thing with needles. So spiders, needles.
I do too. But I also think like anything, like the mind is the most powerful thing, and that we can overcome any of those fears or pain or whatever else if you get your mind right.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, you have an event coming up with Tyler's Hope as well, fundraising, right?
Yes.
So this is the Cajun Crawfish Boil, April 24th. Is this for everybody? Anybody can come?
Yeah.
Cool. Hold this up right here.
To a certain extent. So with COVID, this is in 15 acres of fields, and we have bands, so it's easy to social distance, mask,
Gotcha.
We put all the precautions in place to make sure that we're being safe, because it is a charity for health.
Yeah, of course.
So that is real important, and we can have, we have the ability to have a lot of people out there, but at a certain point we may cut it off.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
The Cajun Crawfish Boil is going to be April 24th, which is a Saturday from 2 p.m. to 9 p.m. at Fox Run. They can buy tickets at tylershope.org.
Yeah.
Cool. So you guys check it out. We'll make sure that we post that up on our social media as well. We'll get a graphic from you guys or something. Make sure we share that as well.
So we have food trucks and Cajun or crawfish, bands, different bands, local bands.
That'll be
Jamie
fun,
Davis,
man.
And,
Let's go. Let's jam out in the fields.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and again, all the money goes to Tyler's Hope, or to research for Dystonia.
Awesome. And so before we wrap up, I want to ask a couple more questions. One of the things that I was really kind of fascinated by when I was, doing a little homework on the company culture, you guys have what is called the Sundown Rule. And I was like really fascinated by this. Can you tell our audience what the Sundown Rule is?
Yeah, so the Sundown Rule is a culmination of several different things that we put in place. One is do what you say you will do. Mm-hmm. It's kind of a driving thing for the Sundown Rule. But the Sundown Rule is making and keeping agreements. But we're a medical equipment service company first. And so the Sundown Rule is having a resolution before the end of the day. So what we do is not go home to come back the next day to continue to troubleshoot something, or not have a clear path towards what that resolution is. So but making and keeping agreements too. We talked about Josh earlier. So we were going to meet Josh downtown, and
so he's talking about Josh Greenberg. We were talking before the show, but Josh Greenberg was a very successful and very impactful entrepreneur here in the Gainesville area.
Yeah, and he was going to show Tyler, and he asked us to meet him down there in the morning, first thing in the morning or whatever. Well, his idea of first thing in the morning was way different than my idea of first thing in the morning. So we had to come back, I'm thinking 8 o'clock and he's thinking 11 o'clock. But I always use that example because it's making and keeping agreements. If we say we're going to be there, you have to say, I'm going to be here at 9 o'clock. The part is hold for pickup at 8, whatever, to make sure that you keep that agreement and that you communicate with the people that are or that need to be communicated with to get that problem resolved. The whole idea is before the sun goes down, you have to put all the things in place to have a clear understanding of how you're resolving that problem.
Love it. It's great. I mean, core value number 5 around here is keep promises, and it's one of those things. I mean, do what you say you're going to do. Get it done before sundown. So
that's a palindrome that I have on my board. I have for 25 years, but that is also something that I've evolved in. Like, it could be as simple as going out to dinner with friends or something. Just have to do what you say you're going to do all the time, and then you're known for that.
Yeah. So my final question for you would be, you've been an entrepreneur, been a serial entrepreneur for, a long time here. Do you feel like you've achieved success? People always have this mindset of when do you achieve success?
So I have a couple of answers to that. One, I think success is 100% effort, right? So whether it's in an athletic event, you don't have to win if you know you did 100%, right? You gave it your all, and you had integrity in your decisions towards giving 100%. Like, you got to tell your mom you're doing something, but success for me with finding a cure for dystonia, it's like a light switch, and I don't mean to be taken the wrong way with this. We've had impacts. It's always fun to see with other family and helpful, but success is finding a cure, right? And nothing short of that.
Right? I knew that was going to be your answer. I just want to say, it's like the definition. Everybody has such, a wide variety of definitions for success, but when I, experience somebody, as talented as yourself and has this mindset and this vision and this focus on really this singular goal, success will be when it's accomplished, when there's a cure.
That's right. That's easy to determine, not easy to accomplish, but easy to determine, and that would be successful there. But there are other ways. I feel very successful in the businesses. Some bad, some good, but it's all experiences that have helped build that, and I'm much more blessed than I ever dreamed of being before.
Awesome. So where can our audience, connect with you? Where can they keep up with what's going on with InterMed or with Tyler's Hope for sure? What's the websites? Where can they make a donation?
So in the spirit of transparency, I'm out everywhere. I'm on Facebook. I don't, LinkedIn, Instagram. So are our companies. It's like, if you're spiritual, it's like someone else looking down on you. Don't do anything that you're embarrassed about, because everything's out there now, right? Don't try to avoid it or worry about getting caught doing it. Just do the stuff that you should be doing. But for us, tylershope.org is definitely the avenue for the foundation, and it has all kinds of information about dystonia and what we're upcoming events, things like that. InterMed1.com is the website for InterMed. You could always call us. Our main corporate office is in Alachua, and
come to this event, April 24th, Cajun Crawfish Boil, 2 p.m. to 9 p.m. And one thing I will say, because I got this little note the other day from Amazon that said, "Hey, we just made a donation to the nonprofit of your choice because you use Amazon Smile," is what they call it, and so. We buy New Scooter Celeste buys office supplies and gets the Amazon Prime thing. We try to keep things as local as possible, but sometimes you just get that Amazon Prime. So if you do that, you can support organizations like Tyler's Hope on Amazon Prime, and every once in a while I get an email from Amazon, "Hey, we just made a donation in your name." So make sure you do those little things that you don't even really think about when you go to Amazon. All you have to do is go to Amazon Smile instead. Rick, thanks so much for making the time to come in, man.
Yeah, I appreciate this opportunity, Collin. It's always fun.
It's fun to catch up with you. It's always good to hear what's going on and to even dive deeper into that story and hear and learn a little bit more. It's always a pleasure. So I can't wait for the celebration when you find a cure. It's going to be a big party, I'm sure.
I appreciate it. It is. I always joke, I think it's $235 to bail me out for streaking down university or anything. But it's going to be a big party.
We'll get a bunch of people to join you, I'm sure.
I could see Tyler up on stage, with Snoop Dogg, telling everybody, whatever. We'll get there.
Well, can't wait, man. And thanks so much to everybody who listens and supports our show. We appreciate you guys. Thanks so much to the crew that makes this possible. We got James Leitner, Sarah Lenz, and once again, I love you, Michael Dees. I'm going to miss you, man. Thank you so much for everything that you've done. You are the best. Podcast fam, if you were driving and didn't have a chance to write down the information of our incredible sponsors that make this show possible, don't worry. You can find all of the information at whoagnv.com/sponsors. We got links to all of their websites and all of their information right there. And special love this episode to our friends at Gainesville Harley-Davidson. We are personal friends with the crew at Gainesville Harley-Davidson. As a scooter dealer, I call these guys my brothers and sisters from another mother, you guys. Go ahead and get this in your calendars now. The last Friday of every month is bike night at Gainesville Harley-Davidson. No matter if you're a seasoned rider, a beginner, or prefer four wheels, everyone is welcome at Gainesville Harley-Davidson for fun events like these. Again, bike night takes place the last Friday of every month from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m., where Gainesville Harley-Davidson has food, fun, and live music. Remember to always ride safe and never drink and ride. Go to GainesvilleHarley.com to learn more. And when you visit that bike night, be sure to say, I heard you on the WHOA GNV podcast. The podcast bring you businesses and individuals that make you go,
whoa.
Whoa. We will see you later. Bye.